Hi everybody, hope this video finds you well. So we're doing fractions this week. We're going to be working on reducing, we're going to be working on simplifying, we're going to be multiplying and dividing fractions. So our first one is finding the product. Whenever we see product, we know that that is a multiplication problem. And then always, 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 when you're working with fractions, you have to put it in simplest form. So we have 3/10 times 2/5. Well, our numerator is 3, our denominator is 10. We take these two numbers and we multiply the two numerators together. We have 3 times 2 equals 6. Then we take our two denominators and we multiply the 10 and the 5 together and we have 50. Then we would divide these by 2. Or we can simplify it first. And when we simplify it first, let's see if I can move this down, we're going to take our 3/10 and our 2/5, and we're going to divide it first. We're going to take our 2 and divide it by 2, it'll give us 1, and our 10 divided by 2 gives us 5. 3 times 1 is 3, 5 times 5 is 25. If we went up here and divided both of these numbers by 2, we would end up with 3/25. Okay? Our second problem is a little bit messier. When we're looking at our second problem, we're looking at a couple of words that we need to know for our vocabulary. Equivalent always means equal. Mixed number is a whole number and a fraction. And our improper fraction means that the numerator or the number that's on the top is larger than the denominator or the number that's the bottom. Usually that's when we take our mixed number and we turn it into an improper fraction because we want to do something to it. We want to multiply it or we want to divide it, and we can't do it if we leave it as a mixed number. So we have 2 1/2 times 4 3/5. So we need to change this into an improper fraction. We have two whole numbers here and we need to make them into improper. So we take our 2 1/2 and we multiply the 2 times the 2 for the denominator, and that's going to give us 4. And we add back in that numerator, which is the top piece, and that gives us 5. So we have 5/2. If you look at it over here, here's our 2 and our 1/2. A little messy over here, but just to give you the idea. So we have 1, 2 pieces, 3 pieces, 4 pieces, 5 pieces, and each one of those pieces represents a half of a circle. So we have 5/2. Then we want to take our 4 3/5 and do the same thing. We want to also change that into an improper. So we have 4 times 5 equals 20, and then we add our 3 back into the top, and that's going to give us a 23 for our numerator and a 5 for our denominator, so 23/5. Now we have to multiply the numerators and the denominators. Again, if we look at this, there's 3 different answers that we're going to choose from, but if you look at this number right here, we could simplify this right off the start. We could change that 5 and the 5, both divide them both by 5, and it would be 1 times 23 equals 23, and 2 times 1 equals 1. But instead I left it because one of your answer choices is actually 115/10. So now you're going to check your answers. That is one. I gave you the second one. Make sure you're reducing, and then you can also flip this 115 divided by 10 and make it back into an improper fraction. And that's where you're going to find your third answer. Good luck. Okay, so here is our third problem, and we are finding the quotient. The quotient again is you are taking your two fractions and you're going to divide them. Okay, so whenever we see the word quotient, we know it's a division problem. And when we're doing with fractions, we're going to keep, change, flip, simplify. So we keep the first number, which is our 4/9. We change our division to a multiplication problem. And then we flip the second fraction from 2/3, we may make it 3/2 or 3/2. And then we simplify. Well, we would have 4/9 times 3/2 or 3/2. And we can simplify the 2 and the 2 can both be divided by 2, and they're both going to be left with 1. And the 3 and the 9 can also both be divided by 3. And so 3 divided by 3 is going to give us 1, and 9 divided by 3 is going to give us 3. So 2 times 1 is going to give us 2, and 3 times 1 is going to give us 3. So your answer for number 3 is 2/3. Now, this one is a little bit trickier. When you look at it, you think, number 4 is a little hard. But just think of PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. And when we're doing PEMDAS, what we do first is we don't see any parentheses, there's no exponents, there's no multiplication, but there is a division. So we have to look at the division first. The 1/3 divided by 4. So again, we change the multiplication or the division into a multiplication, and we flip the 4 over 1 into 1 over 4. So 1 times 1, it gives us 1, and 3 times 4 equals 12. Now we can take this part and subtract 5/6 from 1/12. Well, you can't do that because a 6 is not the same as a 12. So we have to convert the 6 into a like fraction. The bottom numbers have to be the same. So we're going to change, both of these numbers can go into 12. So 5, this should have been a 6, sorry, converts to 10/12. So let me see if I can change that for you guys. So this right here becomes 5/6 becomes 10/12 because 6 goes into 12 2 times and 5 goes into 10 2 times. Okay, so now we have 10/12 and we have our original division problem up here that equaled 1/12. So we're going to take our 10/12 and we're going to subtract 1/12 from it, and it equals 9/12. So 9/12 can be divided, both numbers can be divided by 3, and it's going to give us 3/4. Okay, number 5. We are looking at finding the quotient again. So when we're writing it, we need to change this number into an improper fraction. It's right now as a mixed number. 2 times our 10 is going to give us 20, plus 7 is going to give us 27, and 10 is our bottom number. So we have 27/10, and it's going to be divided by 9/15. Well, we do our keep, change, flip. We keep our 27/10, we change it to a multiplication, and then we flip it. And again, don't forget to simplify. So 10 and 15 can both be divided by 5. 5 goes into 10 twice. 5 goes into 15 3 times. 27 and 9 can both be divided by 9. 9 goes into 9 1 time. 9 goes into 27 3 times. 3 times 3 is going to give us 9. 2 times 1 is going to give us 2. Now we have it as a improper fraction. We want to turn it back into a mixed number. So 2 goes into 9 4 times. 4 times 2 is going to give us 8. 9 take away 8 is going to give us 1. So we are left with 4 whole pieces and 1/2. Da-da-da! Uh-oh, wrong number. So now we have evaluate the expression. Okay. I'm going to flip through this one. Okay. Okay. This one right here, place the steps in order from 1/2 to the correct number. So first thing that you're going to do is, we just went over this 4 or 5 times. My expectation is that you can do it. Okay. The length of a rectangle is twice its width. So we know the formula for area is length times width. So now this is what it says. The length is twice its width. So if the length is 4.5, we have to cut it in half in order to get to the width. So half of 4 would give us 2, and half of 1/2 is going to give us 1/4. So now they want to know is what is the area of the rectangle. So we're going to plug in our numbers, length times width, and we have to change these both back into improper fractions. So if we have 4 and 1/2, we're going to multiply this 4 times 2 is going to give us 8, plus 1 is 9, so we're going to have 9/2. And then here, for our width, we're going to take our 2 and multiply 2 is going to be 4. 4 times 2 is going to give us 8, plus that 1 is going to give us 9, so it's 9/4. Now we just multiply it out. 9 times 9 is 81, and 2 times 4 is 8. When we're looking at this, you can see the 81 is on top, divided by the 8. 8 goes into 80 10 times, and you should be able to figure out what comes next. All right, so now we have how many cups, how many 3/4 of a cup servings are in 1/2 of a cup of milk? The very first thing you have to know is what are you dividing? You're dividing the 1/2 cup of milk. They've given you like a little tiny bit of milk, and they want to know how many 3/4 of a cup can you get out of it. So you're going to take your 1/2, which is what you're dividing, and you're going to multiply it because we're going to do the keep, change, flip, and simplify. So we're going to change our division to multiplication, and our 3/4 becomes 4/3. And then we do 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 3 equals 12. Again, we could have simplified this first and made this 1 and this a 2, and that would have been 2/3, okay, or 2/3. All righty, so now we're on to problem number 9. Okay, so we have a school bus, and the school bus uses 3/4 of a tank. So every week they fill up 3/4 of a tank of gas, or they fill up their tank of gas, and the school bus uses 3/4 of it. And it goes back and forth, and it does this 5 days. Well, maybe one day they're off that week. You know, sometimes you have a Monday off or a Friday off, and they want to know what would it cost just to fill it for the 4 days. So what you have to do first is you have to figure out what the unit rate of gas is used for one day. So you would take the 5 days and divide it into the 3/4. The 3/4 divided by 5 days. So that's going to give you the 1 unit rate. And then you take that number and you multiply that number by the 4 days. Make sure that you simplify. So again, 3/4 divided by 5, you keep, change, flip, and simplify. I think you guys can all do it. All right, now you are canning 40 cups. 40 cups of applesauce, okay? And this would be actually really fun to do. If you had some good apples, like if you went apple picking one day when all this corona is over, and then you have 20 glass jars. Each of the glass jars hold 1 3/4 of a cup, okay? So what they want to know is, will you have enough jars? So what do you think you have to do to solve this problem? You have to know, first of all, how much you're going to be canning, how much you're going to have, and how many cups there are. So 40 cups of applesauce is what you're going to have to start with. And you have 20 glass jars, and each of them hold 1 3/4. Well, before I even do the multiplication, I can kind of see where this is going. But basically, this is what you have, and this is what you're going to need. Excuse me, this is what you're going to need, and this is what you have. So you're going to multiply the 20 times the 1 3/4 and get your answer, and that should be your problems are all solved, and that's the end. So hopefully you did a great job working with me, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye.